Hola Tucson, ¿cómo están? All right, so I'm going to tell some stories, and hopefully in the end they will intertwine to explain my understanding, my appreciation, my love for, and hopefully my little contribution to this thing, this magic thing, the Tucson sound. So I'll begin with, let's speak of Tucson. Tucson is an oasis in a very inhospitable desert. Yes, it is. It's been a gathering place for peoples for millennia, and we can't even look back through the thousands of years and know their names, but we can through the centuries, and we find O'odham and the Pinal and the Apache, and then came the Spanish, and then the Mexicans, and then the Americans. The Americans called it a Union territory first, and then it became a Confederate territory, and then it went back to the Union territory. But finally, on Valentine's Day, 1912, we got our statehood, and we became American, and we became part of the Union. And we got the coolest flag of all of them. State 48 has the coolest flag. It's no coincidence, it's no accident. It was going to happen that way. All the change and the different cultures that come and go to this place created, to my mind, a confluence of conflict and resolution that lasted for centuries or millennia. But what was always constant was Tucson, this place. People wanted to be here. And so it does not have an identity crisis. Tucson has deep roots where people come and they take care of people and they thrive. And that conflict is in the past. And now we have Tucson and we have Tucson-ness. And its unique vibration and sonic celebration is like nothing I've encountered anywhere, ever. Artists in general try to escape things. There are things they try to get away from, especially little towns. But in Tucson, if you'll note, whatever the media is, Tucson artists, sonic or otherwise, always incorporate something about this place in their art, proudly. Instead of saying, I got to get away from Springfield or Minneapolis. This is a place to be and not to flee, which makes it incredibly unique. Now, who am I? My name is Roger Cline. I am a third-generation Arizonan. I was born at St. Mary's Hospital about 2 miles from here. In 1968. No, true. My great-grandfather was a doctor here. My grandfather was a businessman and ran water businesses. My father is still a working rancher on the family ranch, not far from here, between the Santa Rita Mountains and the Whetstone Mountains, old Chiricahua Apache homeland, a place we call the Clyne Ranch. Well, I was born here, and my parents were Wildcats, U of A alum. You're going to kill me later when I tell you where I got my degree. Yeah, pause for booze, O-O-Z-E booze. I was quickly transplanted. I don't remember much of my early youth here in Tucson. I was transplanted to the metropolis, to Phoenix, Arizona, actually Tempe, so my father could work in the feedlots and my mother could be a teacher. But we had family here, and we had family at the ranch, and so Tucson was always central to those travels. We would come out of Tempe to Tucson, and my little brother and I would need new boots, so we'd go to Cowtown. Or we'd need fishing gear, and we'd go to Yellowfront. Or we'd need those tough skin jeans, we'd go to Sears here. And then we'd go up the hill, and we'd help Grandma and Grandpa work on the ranch for weeks or sometimes months at a time, depending. Anyway, those memories are where my roots are, where my heart, my Sonoran heart is. Now, I'm going to fast forward to college years, where I was living in Tempe, Arizona, and yes, I got my degree from Arizona State. Hold your fire. I know, I'm the one who has to live with it. I was born here and I got my degree there, believe me. Every day I wake up, every day. As a lot of guys do in college or earlier than that, I had a band in college as I was exploring the breadth of the liberal arts. And one summer, as I was working on my degree, my friends and I, who were in a band, decided that we would go to Taipei, Taiwan, and teach English and take our music over there, our original music over there, and dominate that island in the club scene, because we were getting ignored in Tempe. So we did so, and I got what was then a courier flight, and I had $300 and no return ticket, and my guitar and my friends, and we had battery-powered amps, and sure enough, we took our original music and some other pseudo-punk rock stuff from the Ramones and Camper Van Beethoven and They Might Be Giants and a newly emerging band called Nirvana, and we went in the subways and we played this pure punk rock awesomeness, and people scorned us and sneered and passed by, shook their heads. And the part I forgot to tell you is when we arrived and we started soliciting for clubs or gigs at the clubs, it was illegal. Like, oh, you can't do that. American bands can't work here, or you guys don't have the right visas. So we took it to the subways. That failed really miserably. And a Danish friend of ours at the hostel said, here's what you got to do. For 10 years, sad songs have been outlawed here in Taiwan by the Republic of China government. They consider themselves essentially at war with China. And as a matter of fact, air raid drills were going on while I was over there. So they had just lifted a ban on sad songs. Sad songs could not be listened to in private or in public. And so even with my punk rock bile rising in my body, I learned Beatles songs, and then I learned John Denver songs, and I learned Everly Brothers songs, and Simon and Garfunkel. And I took those songs, and we went down into the subways, and we shoved our way in between the Cobra Venom salesman and the fake Rolex person, and we began to play, and people stopped, and they stood still, and they sang these songs that weren't in their native tongue, verbatim, and they cried, and then they left, and they brought us flowers and money, and that was not lost on me. The money, the power of those masters, those songs transcended everything and brought humans from different parts of the world together in a very real face-to-face way, and I took that home to my band and my college thing, which lasted a long time. And the next thing, so my band, I started working on my songwriting, and my band's working in the clubs, and my songwriting hopefully was getting a little bit better. And the next summer, I applied for and got accepted to an ethnography program, ethnography and Spanish immersion through the Department of Anthropology, Arizona State University, in Ensenada, Mexico. Who's not going to go to that? So I knew nothing about ethnography, but it turns out it's a study of living cultures, and as I'm having to scramble to come up with a topic, my peers who were in the anthropology department had something respectable. They had, we're going to explore the Mexican codification of the Dewey Decimal System in the library. And then the next person was like, oh, I'm going to observe a bakery family in Ensenada, Mexico. And then the further one was like, oh, I'm going to codify pediatrics in Mexico. And I was like, it came to me, and I was like, I'm studying mariachis. I did it. I pissed my classmates off. So my workday would begin around 6:30 when I'd go to the Malecon, and I tried to glom on to mariachi groups who were working the tourist circuit, and they were having nothing to do with me. I was this white kid who spoke terrible Spanish with a clipboard and a tape recorder asking questions that they didn't want to answer and they didn't understand. I broke the code with lots of cigarettes and beer, and finally was adopted by one of these groups, and I got to hang out with them, and they opened up to me, and they told me what La Cucaracha is about, and they told me what Cielito Lindo means, and where Guadalajara is, and who Guantanamera, all of these things, and they were guarded because they were passionate, and when they let me in, I understood, like, this is a part of a whole nation, a whole culture. They're so proud of this. And I took that home, and their imagery is amazing in the mariachi music. By the way, Sol Azteca, what? Awesome. Their imagery and their passion and their unbridled use of any kind of expression. Like, who else goes, ah, 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 as a part of a song? I can do it a lot better than that, too. I should have. Oh, I took that home and incorporated those spices and flavors and understanding in my music. And then my band broke up, and I formed another band, and I took my experience from Taiwan, and I took my experience from Mexico, and I put them together, like the resonance of the masters, and the deep roots that the Mexican people had in their mariachi music, and I tried to marry it in a very clumsy way in a band called the Refreshments. Thank you. And I took that to the clubs while I was sending out my application letters to try to get into grad school in environmental psychology with an emphasis in experimental design, which doesn't seem like it would fit, but it's actually, it did at the time. But the band was picking up, and as my application letters went out, I realized I don't know if I want to get accepted, and so one day they started coming back, and I opened one from a California university, and it said, "Congratulations, you will have a seat in the fall with a stipend and a great tuition package." And that gave me great pause, because I'd fallen in love with music and exploring it and understanding where my roots were here. And so that's when I pivoted, and I sent a no thank you to that university, and I took the step onto the path less traveled, and that has made all the difference. So I'm a musician now, an independent musician. I lead a band called the Peacemakers. We'll be playing here tonight after this, if you would like to come out. And I humbly submit that all these peregrinations and all these adventures start here in the Sonoran Desert, in my heart, and hopefully it becomes a part of this wonderful magic called the Tucson Sound. Muchas gracias.